Press it.
Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I have broken the rules.
Well, it's okay. This is going to be a shorter episode. I always knew going into this project that there were going to be shorter episodes than
That is
others.
why I have broken the rules.
Yes. I shouldn't have pre-warned you either.
Yeah, probably not. That was a bad call. Here we are, 4 tries in. Let's go. Let's fucking dazzle.
We'll get to his name eventually.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of this episode will be quotes from the author's one and only work. Not just a lot of the episode will have backstory to the author's previous life either before we get to the true subject matter, because most of what we know about the author is what he tells in this novel. And the book itself deals mostly with the author's condition. Interviews by friends and family were also, they were always talking about the author's condition, so it didn't really lead anywhere that I could find. So this is as much as I actually got.
Was it a good condition or a bad condition? Or are you saying too much?
Find what condition my condition is in. It's bad.
It's bad?
It's really bad.
Oh, are we doing that kind of fucking episode tonight? Is it going to be...
I mean, he's a champ about it.
Okay, do I have to... Okay, you know the core rules on the never says, right? I don't have to repeat that?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not doing Marquis de Sade bad again.
No. It's
Okay.
not. That man didn't have a condition.
That's a high fucking bar, though.
He had a lot of felonies.
Just saying he's not that bad isn't...
No. This man, he's not a
know.
bad man. This is about his condition.
His condition?
And it's a bad condition.
Okay.
But it's not a mental condition. We'll get there.
Proceed.
Anyway, Jean-Dominique Bauby was born April 23rd, 1952 in Paris, France. His friends called him Jean-Do. He started his career in journalism sometime in his 20s by working for a French magazine called Combat. It's just a regular daily read.
It's just a regular daily read called Combat. Does Combat mean something...
clappers. No.
Does Combat mean something different in French?
Fight? I think it's a French word.
Just wake up in the morning on the toilet. Combat! What the fuck is that? No, come on.
As far as I could tell, yeah, it's just a regular daily read.
All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Look, if I'm going to have to pick up the French Daily or the Paris Sun, I'm going to go for one called Combat. I'm going to be like, hey, maybe this one's got page 5 girls, Who knows?
Yeah, waking up in the morning, let me just, pull down my cargo pants, unhitch my fucking concealed carry holster. And I'm reading Combat.
I'm just a civilian eating MREs because I think that's what people do.
I'm going to assume that it had different context at the time.
Maybe. Yes. Well, he started his career in journalism sometime in his 20s by working for a French magazine called Combat. The magazine's earliest contributors were people like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. Huh?
No, dude. What?
Okay.
Come on.
But they were long gone by the time Jean Do got there.
Yeah, who the fuck were they, though?
You're not going to need... You know what? You're not going to remember. They were French philosophers. They're philosophers.
I feel like you're covering up also not knowing who the fuck
Go fucking look. I've got a couple of his books.
Don't just point at the fucking books and
I'm not going to be able to find it, bitch. I can't read.
Fuck you. Let's pause it right now. I'm calling your bluff. Where are they?
Okay.
Boom. You brought me 2 books by people not named that. Are you so soaked up in the joke of the title of this that you forgot, yes, I can indeed read?
Okay, what's his name?
Albert Camus.
You know what? You got me.
Oh, have I done something bad?
It's like that one night when you were like, no, I don't know who any of these people are. I only know 2 authors.
Shut the fuck up. We already did that joke.
No, because you cut it off because you fucked up the beginning again.
I didn't cut that off. We were going to save that for outtakes.
I only know Tolkien and I know Mark Twain. I said, oh, that's great. Do you know who Samuel Clemens are? And you said no. So in French, that would actually say Camus. So anyway...
You fucking shit elf in your trickery.
So he was gone by the time Jean Do got there. Jean-Dominique Bauby's first headline was on April 2nd, 1974. God damn it.
you glad we started over?
April 2nd, 1974, announcing the death of sitting French President Georges Pompidou. Now, by the time Jean Doe was working at Combat, there was already a split happening in the head offices. So when former editor-in-chief Philippe Tesson left Combat to start his own newspaper called Le Quotidien de Paris, or The Daily Paris, in March of 1974, Jean Doe was one of those who followed. Please also remember, I am fluent in French.
Are you now?
Mm-hmm. Now, Combat, the magazine he was leaving...
Oh, fuck, can't wait to hear this.
The magazine he was leaving was actually pretty left-leaning, while Le Quotidien de Paris founder Philippe Tesson was not. So when President François Mitterrand was elected in 1981, who, as we will all recall, was very left-wing, Philippe Tesson had some very choice words about his election and started using his newspaper as a soapbox. This led to a mass exodus of employees leaving Le Quotidien de Paris and moving to the newspaper Le Matin de Paris, meaning the Morning Paris. Just as a quick side note here, because I wanted to know what eventually happened to the newspaper everyone left, it was eventually bought by far-right extremists in the mid-90s, operated for less than a year, then closed its door forever.
All right, wait, what are you going to do with the paper you're buying from me again? Oh, wait, never mind. I don't give a shit.
Man, it's too bad. It's like all those far-right leaning websites that keep shutting down because of them.
No, there's a whole, like... Haven't they completely, like, opened up, like, a whole separate social media
it closed
section
down.
of the fucking internet?
It fucking closed down.
Did they close all this shit down?
I mean, it's not like the internet closed it down. They couldn't keep it running because there wasn't anybody there. Nobody gave a shit, and they were losing money doing it.
Wait, so, like, now where this guy's working, it's, like, fascist far-right?
It was before he left it.
Not just, like, American Democrat far-right?
Right.
Okay.
Not the regular Biden 50s far right. Well, it was here at the new Le Matin de Paris, the newspaper that everyone went to, that Jean Doe was able to pad his portfolio as editor-in-chief at just 28 years old, before being picked up by Paris Match, which is pretty much just a tabloid magazine like The Sun, from what I could tell. In 1991, climbing up the corporate ranks, Jean-Dominique Bauby became editor of world-renowned women's fashion magazine, Elle. Do you know what Elle is?
Maybe?
You ever beaten it to Mary Claire and you're like, God, I wish there was something better?
No, I've never, no.
It's a women's fashion magazine.
I've never actually beaten it in my entire life.
Oh, no. Well, welcome to Liars Anonymous. Sometime, somewhere, Jean Doe met and married a woman named Sylvie de la Rochefoucauld. Look, if you've got 4 syllables in your name, it's over. And
as far as your French fluency?
Yeah, it gets tired and my tongue just stops.
I feel like that's not fluent.
Yeah, no.
No, you're the expert here, though. I trust you.
Yeah.
So, proceed, please.
And with her, they had 2 children, a son named Théophile, sometime around 1987, and a daughter named Celeste, sometime in 1989. Now, as we all know, when someone suffers a stroke, they commonly lose some motor functions. This is sometimes seen in the face, where one side smiles and the other side can't. A rare disorder called locked-in syndrome is the result of a person having a stroke, then afterwards losing almost all motor functions. This can, but will not always mean, not being able to breathe without assistance. Think of sleep paralysis, except all the time.
All the time,
all
and
the
you're
time.
not dreaming.
Yep.
And then sometimes you dream, and then it's scarier.
Sometimes the old hag is real. She's here to change your beddings. Some notable people with locked-in syndrome are Stephen Hawking and Salamanca from Breaking Bad, which you'll remember because you're such a fan.
Did you just say some people you'll remember that are affected by this are a real person and then a fictional person?
The list was short.
I don't know, man.
Look, it happens to a lot of normal people, and the amount of famous people there are is
it happened to my great grandpa. He had a stroke, and then he lost whole right side of his body or whole left side. I don't fucking remember.
You don't know the difference, which is worse. But
and then it was a long time ago last time I saw him. But and then I remember, and then he pulled the tail of a snake out of a lumber pile. I used to live in Georgia, and then it bit him on the whatever side was still working, and then that paralyzed the other side.
Fuck.
And I remember him bitching about it before, like, fuck, no, I keep going into bars and they keep saying I'm drunk. No, I've had a stroke.
Fuck, that is an issue I never thought about. Now before I was like, there's enough things that like, hey, if I get a stroke, man, it is what it is. What are you supposed to do about it? But now I'm terrified. No one will serve me.
You can't take a fucking... Well, everybody's going to think you're drunk if you're pouring a fucking shot and then it like pours out of the sloppy side of your face. Like...
well, give me a straw.
Probably going to edit that out.
Nope. Anyway, recovery from locked-in syndrome is not impossible, but progress is described as watching a hair grow. Now, Jean Doe had been separated from his wife Sylvie for some time. He moved out of the family home in July of 1995 and didn't really have the time between his limited visitations with his kids and his busy work life to explain to his children why mom and dad had split up. He figured his daughter was young enough to not really question things, but he was worried about what his son Théophile was hearing from his mom. He had chosen this weekend, nearly 6 months later, to answer all questions. You see, as editor of Elle magazine, there are a few benefits to be had. This day in particular, Jean Doe was being picked up by a driver sent by BMW to test out and review their new luxury sedan. I looked it up, and all the choices were not impressive.
So BMW is always just...
It's
historically been...
It's their electric razor looking years. It doesn't... It's nothing great. But anyway, the driver would sit in the backseat patiently while Jean Doe picked up his son at his mother's house 25 miles outside Paris and take him out on the town. A dinner of oysters and a night out at the theater were on the schedule. On the way, A Day in the Life by the Beatles plays, and all seems right in the world. But by the time he got to
Why do you know this detail?
He wrote about it.
Oh, fuck the Beatles.
All right.
No, they ain't about that thugging shit.
By the time he got to his wife's house to pick up his son, Jean Doe found himself sweating and tired. No worries, probably just work stress. He picked up his son like usual. They gawked at the car for a little bit and carried on their way back towards Paris. But as Jean Doe began to pass a car, his vision doubled. He quickly detoured to his sister-in-law Diane's house a few blocks away because she's a nurse, and pulling up to the sidewalk...
That's pretty lucky.
Yeah, right? Tells Théophile to quickly get her as he crawls into the back seat. And this whole time, Jean Doe can't seem to get A Day in the Life out of his head. All this shit is happening, but his head still recycles the same song over and over. Diane inspects him in the car and says they have to get him to a clinic as fast as they can, the nearest one being 10 miles away. As the BMW driver speeds to the clinic with his son and sister-in-law in the backseat, Jean-Dominique tries to tell the driver to slow down, but finds he cannot speak. Soon his head goes limp, and before his mind can get to that final crashing note in A Day in the Life, he knocks out. It was December 8th, 1995, and Jean-Dominique Bauby just suffered a stroke at 43, which will keep him in a coma for 20 days.
Damn, all right.
When he awoke in room 119 of the Naval Hospital at Berck-sur-Mer on the French Channel coast, Jean Doe found that he could only blink his left eyelid. He was told by doctors that he was the latest victim to a rare disorder called locked-in syndrome.
Oh, okay. No, you just answered my question. I was like...
You see, as a writer, I use a trick called foreshadowing. Because I pulled the skin over your eyes, you see.
You show me the former later on.
Oh, there are my keys. Now, over time, he was gradually able to do certain things on his own. Things such as turn his head slightly, drink a couple of drops of water without drowning, and shake his limbs a fraction of an inch to kind of stretch them.
Whoa.
But that was about it.
Wait a minute. Like, drink a couple drops of water without drowning? Does it stop like internal control, like instinctive control too? Like
Kind
really?
of, yeah. Like I said before, some people can't breathe on their own. He was luckily able to breathe as far as I could tell, but which tube it was going to go down in the whole swallowing motion was kind of up for grabs.
Okay, so it's way worse than just like not being able to move. It's like your insides also are not.
Yeah.
All right.
Your brain is fully awake, unfortunately, and you're just like shitting yourself, you know?
Shit.
Yeah, exactly. He also couldn't hear out of his right ear, yet everything was amplified in his left. So if someone pushed a cart with a squeaky wheel past his room, the noise was deafening. He describes his whole body as a diving bell, a chamber used to drop divers into the ocean while still giving them air to breathe, back before there were diving suits. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the whole thing, like the BioShock thing.
Yes.
Big Daddy. Yeah, where they're in the whole big suit with the glass.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's basically literally just that. It's a diving bell. It's a big bell-shaped thing that goes over you while you're in the water, and then as it sinks down, the air doesn't escape. So you're just kind of left breathing and trapped underwater. It's
and hoping
terrifying.
the pressure is just going to be fine.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
You have no way of knowing if that rope snaps and you're just going quicker than normal.
Well, that description is fucking terrifying, and now I'm worried about my old age.
I hate the water. I'm scared. I don't like it.
Oh.
Anyway, quote, "To fight off stiffness, I instinctively stretch, my arms and legs moving only a fraction of an inch. It is often enough to bring relief to a painful limb. My diving bell becomes less oppressive, and my mind takes flight like a butterfly. There is so much to do. You can wander off in space or in time, set out for Tierra del Fuego or for King Midas's court. You can visit the woman you love, slide down beside her and stroke her still sleeping face. You can build castles in Spain, steal the Golden Fleece, discover Atlantis, realize your childhood dreams and adult ambitions." In less than 6 months, Jean Doe lost 66 pounds. Now remember, he was a much beloved editor of a world-famous magazine, so he had a lot of world-traveling friends out there. So while people took their vacations in Tibet or Mexico or Monte Carlo or some shit like that, they would send him postcards to be read by his girlfriend Florence Ben Sadoun, letting him know that they were calling upon the highest priests, miracle men, and witch doctors the world had to offer to help him on his road to recovery.
He's just like, I wish I had enough muscles to sarcastically say thank you.
Quote, "In every corner of the world, the most diverse deities have been solicited in my name. I try to organize all the spiritual energy. If they tell me that candles have been burned for my sake in a Breton chapel, or that a mantra has been chanted in a Nepalese temple, I at once give each of the spirits invoked a task. A woman I know enlisted a Cameroon holy man to procure me the goodwill of Africa's gods. I have assigned him my right eye. For my hearing problems, I rely on the relationship between my devout mother-in-law and the monks of the Bordeaux Brotherhood. They regularly dictate their prayers to me, and I occasionally steal into their abbey to hear their chants fly heavenward. So far, the results have been unremarkable, but when 7 brothers of the same order had their throats cut by Islamic fanatics, my ears hurt for several days."
Whoa. God damn. Okay, also, I mean, excuse me, I don't know what his situation was currently, but he's taking that very well. I mean, me thinking of this situation...
How the fuck else are you supposed to take it?
I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Right.
I know. A little bit bitchier. I mean, thinking about it from a modern mindset, I'm like, why are you praying, please send me money? Please, goddamn. Do you have any idea how expensive this is? Like,
not a whole lot since they're in France.
I mean, back then, was thoughts and prayers not as offensive as it is now? Like, I don't... It's a very nice gesture, but...
Yet all the... To continue his quote...
You have to pay for my lungs to keep functioning. I can't afford this. I'm a writer. Like,
no, they just don't put their tax money towards bullets. That's all that they do. So he's still able to live. To continue his quote, "Yet all these lofty protections are merely clay ramparts, walls of sand, Maginot lines compared to the small prayer my daughter Celeste sends up to her Lord every evening before she closes her eyes. Since we fall asleep at roughly the same hour, I set out for the kingdom of slumber with this wonderful talisman, which shields me from all harm."
What do you want?
Nothing. Never mind.
Why'd you point at me?
I thought you had to pause and go potty.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, I'm square.
Okay.
I'm good to go.
No,
Fucking innards, strong, centered.
They're not.
Ready to dazzle. Let's go.
I'm going to interrupt your innards fixins later. It was better in my head. No. Tickle your kidneys. Now, it was unfortunate that Jean-Dominique could not speak because he had a lot to say. Everyone knew his mind was still there, but all anyone could do was ask him yes or no questions, where he would blink once for yes or twice for no. Beyond that, there was no way for him to communicate. That is, until his speech therapist, Sandrine Fichot, came up with a way for him to talk. Using a board with the alphabet written on it, she would go through each letter, one by one, until Jean-Do got to the letter he wanted that would spell out the word he wanted to say. Now, I don't have specifics on this exactly, but if the movie is to be believed, she would go down the list, he would blink, she'd write down the letter, then when he got to the end of a word, he'd blink twice to act as kind of like a space bar. But the way the alphabet was set up wasn't just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, however, it was a special alphabet where the most used letter in the French language, E, came first, then the second most used, A, and so on. So it sounded like this. ESARINT ULOMDPC FBV HGJ QZY Soon, anyone visiting Jean-Dominique Bauby was
did they
able.
add in the song? Is that not?
Yeah,
harder?
actually, they go through the exact same alphabet that we do, and they actually go in the same order, I believe, for their alphabet song.
No, but wouldn't the notes be harder? Like,
why?
Or is that like because they're like remembering notes to follow in a song is harder than remembering just like an order of things, right?
Yeah, but they go in the same order.
Oh, okay.
These ones in particular are just for him, though, so that he doesn't have to keep his eye open for so long until something comes along his way. But soon, anyone visiting Jean-Dominique Bauby was able to hold an entire conversation using this method. But according to Jean-Do himself, the alphabet game wasn't as perfect as he was hoping it'd be. But not because it was an imperfect method, but because people are dumb. Each word took an average of 2 minutes to spell, and if he takes all this time to ask, "How are you?" and whoever he's talking to just says, "Fine," then the ball's back in his court. Sometimes he'd also get frustrated when people refuse to make conclusion for what word he is trying to spell, so he just has to spell out every single letter. But the worst is when someone's looking at his alphabet sheet, look up, wait for a response, then go to the next letter, which takes forever, like E, B, J, and he can only keep his eye open for so long. According to Jean-Do, the Scrabble players and people who do crossword puzzles are the best to communicate with because they're pretty quick to memorize his alphabet, so they won't even need the sheet. At some point, Jean-Dominique Bauby decided to write a memoir. Not about his whole life per se, but about his experiences with locked-in syndrome. While most people would write several drafts to complete a novel, Jean-Do didn't have that option. Instead, he would say the same sentences over and over in his head, memorizing every line for when the time would come to have a session with his speech therapist that day. Quote, "In my head, I turn over every sentence 10 times, delete a word, add an adjective, and learn my text by heart, paragraph by paragraph." Sometimes he would come up with something he thought was clever in the middle of dictating his words to his speech therapist, Sandrine, but he had to keep on target with what he had already memorized. Because something can be funny if you say it in the middle of a conversation, but if you're taking 30 minutes to say something stupid, it just isn't a good use of your time.
Hey.
What? You don't take that long to come up with things. You're just abrasive.
Yeah. All right.
Quote, "But my communication system disqualifies repartee. The keenest rapier grows dull and falls flat when it takes several minutes to thrust it home. By the time you strike, even you no longer understand what had seemed witty before you started to dictate it letter by letter. So the rule is to avoid impulsive sallies. It deprives conversation of its sparkle, all those gems you bat back and forth like a ball, and I count this forced lack of humor one of the greatest drawbacks of my condition." End quote. I do like, though, that while he refused to say anything impulsive, he took all that time to describe how you can't be impulsive. By its completion, the memoir took 10 months to write, in 4-hour sessions a day, taking about 200,000 blinks to write all 132 pages.
Oh, we're doing blanks.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's how he's doing it. And it's every single letter for every single word. 10 months.
Well, it's better than like, okay, we're just going to start running through words and you just blink real fast when we get to that one word that you want. Okay, now starting all over again.
Let's keep going for rim job. On March 6th, 1997, after only...
I don't like making fun of the stroke victim guy.
He's not... We're not making fun of him.
I am.
Well, that's on you.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Don't worry,
well,
he's dead in French.
Wait, he was working for a far-right...
He left because of that. On March 6th, 1997, after only a year and a half in his vegetative state, Jean-Dominique Bauby's The Diving Bell and the Butterfly was released by publishing company Editions Robert Laffont. On the first day of publication, it managed to sell around 25,000 copies. In the first week, 150,000. Jean-Dominique Bauby was expected to make progress, perhaps even be able to speak someday. As a matter of fact, he had begun to mumble along to a children's song with great success. However, a very quick progression of pneumonia killed him suddenly at the age of 44 on March 9th, 1997, a mere 3 days after The Diving Bell and the Butterfly released. He is buried at the Père Lachaise cemetery in France. Now, in 2007, 10 years after his death, a movie version of Jean Doe's struggles with locked-in syndrome was released. And it isn't a bad movie by any means. In fact, it's won a ton of awards and is reportedly Jason Momoa's favorite film. So if you're listening to this right now, Jason Momoa, do us a favor and take your shirt off and write Caleb Can't Read on your chest and tag us on Twitter. At Caleb Can't Read.
Fuck, Jordan.
What?
That was even more pathetic than just being thirsty.
Who else do we have?
We don't.
Are you not thirsty for Jason Momoa?
No. What do you mean? Who else do we have? We have nothing. What do you
take your shirt off and write Caleb Can't Read in your chest hair?
No, you won't like that.
No one does.
It's not quite thick enough. That's the problem
but anyway,
with my body hair.
The biggest critics against the film were the people actually a part of Jean Doe's life. The biggest misrepresentation to most was Bauby's love interests. You see, according to the movie, his wife Sylvie just couldn't deal with their kids seeing him this way, and oh, what a tragedy. But in reality, they had long been separated, as mentioned before. Hell, in Bauby's last hours alive, she was vacationing in the U.S. with her boyfriend. And Bauby's girlfriend, Florence Ben-Sadon, wasn't even part of the movie. But in reality, she was driving hours to Berck-sur-Mer Hospital 2 to 3 times a week to be with him. Quote, "We stayed in love. We even had fights. It's what kept us both alive." Her character is ultimately represented by his speech therapist. Like, she just can't keep herself away from the patient that drools the most. The movie as a whole, it's Hollywood. It's total fiction.
If the joke was in good taste.
Oh, please. Oh, you're trying to be the less bad guy.
I mean, the bar is fucking low, man, but... Yeah.
No, he jokes about it himself, honestly. As a matter of fact, I'll be ending with a good quote of his. Now, here's the thing. The movie as a whole was pretty fictionalized. The magazine Jean-Dominique once worked for, Elle, refused to even review the movie purely out of spite for its fiction. On top of the whole love triangle thing, which is obviously a Hollywood fairy tale, they portrayed Bauby as suicidal, which he never was. In reality, Bauby was a fighter, and he was constantly sarcastic about his situation to cheer up others and himself. For instance, his girlfriend would dress him up in clothes from home so he wouldn't need to sit around in hospital gowns. As he put it, quote, "If I must drool, I might as well drool on cashmere." My sources today: The Diving Bell and the Butterfly by Jean-Dominique Bauby.
Than me.
First Vintage International Edition says July 1998, but I know that's bullshit because it advertises the movie that didn't come out for another decade. So, and The Real Love Story Behind the Diving Bell and the Butterfly by Janine Di Giovanni, The Guardian, November 29th, 2008, and Wikipedia. I mean, all that you've got is to be a trooper. I mean,
dude, I don't feel like we should have. God damn, like.
It's fine.
No. The way you played this up to me, you were like, "Oh man, he's so fucking horrible." I thought we were just gonna be. I thought I was gonna be.
I told you it was his condition, not him.
God damn! I thought it was.
He doesn't have a condition of like touching kids.
No. The way you played this up to me for like a fucking week was that you were just going to be avoiding dropping N-bombs the entire time, and he was.
Why would I? There's no reason to.
Yeah, I know. Why would you tell me? Why would you lead me to believe there would be that? I don't fucking know, you asshole.
Why would I?
But now I'm just making fun of a fucking victim of a goddamn nasty stroke. I feel like making jokes about someone's struggle with recovery from a stroke is not awesome.
We weren't making jokes about his condition.
We absolutely were.
We did a little bit.
We 100% just made fun. Oh, fuck.
Hey, I'm willing to stick by my guns. You can visit us at CalebCan'tRead.com.
I'm not trying to draw those, bud.
You can go on to our Caleb Can't Read Sources page on Facebook.
No.
Yeah.